And what Jesus wants you to know is that he's been there. The phrase, "I've been there," could be Jesus' theme song. To the lonely, Jesus whispers, "I've been there." To the discouraged, Jesus nods his head and sighs and says, "I've been there." Jesus came into the world a nobody. He lived in an obscure little hamlet. Around him were all the sounds of Roman occupation. Picture a dusty, quiet village, a place where nothing or anybody ever amounted to anything. Jesus was described as just a carpenter. He had dirt under his nails and sweat on his shirt. Isaiah had this to say about him: "No stately form or majesty that we should look upon him, no appearance that we should be attracted to him." No cover of GQ for Jesus. No drop-dead smile or square-jawed, chiseled look. One of the 3rd century historians by the name of Origen described him this way: his body was small, ill-shapen, and ignoble. If you looked up run-of-the-mill in the dictionary, you would find Jesus' picture next to it. Let me ask you, are you ordinary? Are you run-of-the-mill? Are you simple in your ways? So was Jesus. He's been there. A man of questionable pedigree, raised in an overlooked nation among oppressed people in an obscure village. That was Jesus. He was a teenager repairing a chair. Word about town was that he could do anything with his hands. Common as they come. He's been there. Why? He had to enter into every detail of human life. And then when he came before God as the high priest to get rid of the people's sin, he would have already experienced it all himself, all the pain, all the testing, and would be able to help where help was needed. If you are poor, Jesus knows how you feel. If you are at the bottom of the heap, Jesus knows. Look beside you. You'll see Jesus right there with you. Do you feel taken in life? Jesus paid taxes to a foreign emperor. He's been there. He understands the meaning of obscurity. But what if your life is anything but obscure? What if you have a business to run and people to manage, crowds to please, and a classroom to lead? Can Jesus relate there? Absolutely. He recruited and built and organized and instructed the greatest organization that ever existed, the church. Over 70 people looked to him for leadership and support. You think you have budgetary issues and personal problems? His group included a zealot who hated Romans, a tax collector who worked for them, a mother with two of his key men who demanded special treatment. Jesus understood that leadership carries with it stress. Ever feel like you need to get away? Well, do you? That's why you came to Lakeside, right? So did Jesus. Early the next morning, while it was still dark, Jesus woke and left the house, and he went to a lonely place where he prayed. Ever have to work so hard that there was no time for lunch? Run into a few of those myself. Jesus can relate. The crowds of people were coming and going so that Jesus and his followers did not even have time to eat. Are you intimidated by email and too many calls to make in a single day? Christ has been there. Great crowds came to Jesus, bringing with them the lame, the blind, the crippled, those who could not speak, and many others. They put him at Jesus' feet, and he healed them. Have you got family problems? When his family heard that what was happening, they tried to take him home with them. They said he was out of his mind. Do your friends let you down? When Christ needed help, his friends took a nap. You men who could not stay awake for even an hour with me, is what he said. Is the future unclear to you? You find yourself struggling with that at times. I find myself struggling with that at times, and so did Jesus. Regarding the end times, he said, no one knows the day or the time or what time it'll be, not even the angels in heaven, not even the Son of Man. You see, Jesus experienced all the pain, all the testing. Jesus got mad enough to purge the temple, hungry enough to eat raw grain, distraught enough to weep in public, fun-loving enough to be called a drunkard, winsome enough to attract children, weary enough to sleep in a storm-bounced boat, and poor enough to sleep on dirt and borrow a coin for a sermon illustration. Radical enough to get kicked out of town and responsible enough to care for his mother, tempted enough to know the smell of Satan, and the fear enough to sweat blood. Folks, there isn't anything that you can do or that you have done that Jesus hasn't experienced, that Jesus hasn't lived, or that Jesus hasn't witnessed. Whatever you're facing, he knows how you feel. I read this story recently, and it touches on the subject of what I'm talking about. Each year in San Antonio, they have a fund run to raise money for breast cancer research. Most run out of kindness, happy to log in 3 miles and donate a few bucks to the cause. A few run in memory of a loved one, others in honor of a cancer survivor. They run for different reasons, but no runner was more passionate than the one I spotted. A bandana covered her bald head, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. She had cancer. And while we ran out of kindness, she ran out of conviction. She knows how cancer victims feel. She's been there. Let me conclude with this. So is Jesus. He is able to run to the cry of those who are being tempted and tested and tried. When you run for him, he runs to help you. Why? Because he knows how you feel. He's been there. Remember what I said about Jesus not being ashamed of his relatives? Well, folks, he's not ashamed of you either. Jesus, who makes people holy, and those who are made holy are from the same family. And so he is not ashamed to call them his brothers and sisters. He's not ashamed of you, nor is he confused by you. So just remember, you're part of the family. Amen.